Okay. All righty, let's make sure that everything is ready. Okay, we're good on YouTube and we are good on Facebook. All right, move this out of the way. And then let's add the people that are in with us for, so we got the parentals on for the grief. Valerie Jones will be back. Sarah Thompson, Lily McGifford. We know they'll be back. Bernice is back. And I'm not sure about the rest. We'll see when they get here. Okay. All right. Okay, so the last time we were in discussion, good evening again, Sister Sarah. All right, Deaconess Valerie Jones is back. I'm sure Mama Nurse will be back momentarily. Okay, so when we were wrapping up depression, and part of what we want to make sure we don't miss is what causes depression during moments of grief. And we talked about, you know, you didn't do what you were supposed to do to take care of them, to visit them, and then when they pass away, you can't do anything for them, so now guilt sets in, and after guilt comes depression. Or you just say, they'll be all right, they always shake it off, you know, and you presume that the sickness that they have is not serious, but when they expire, you're in shock, okay? So, and the fact that you didn't take them serious would be something that could cause depression. And we know that it goes without saying that depression left unchecked can lead to suicide. Someone would say, you know, I do not want to live because, you know, the person that I love or care about is no longer with me. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to be here, okay? So there's some other aspects about depression that I don't want us to miss. And you all will need to help me with some of this discussion, okay? So we do know that a debilitating illness can lead you to think differently and maybe even become depressed about the condition of your loved one. So let's say we'll just start with a few. I'm gonna write them down because this is unique to this study. Every time we do it, something different comes up that comes to mind. So I'm gonna write down some debilitating diseases, and you all feel free to type in where you can or unmute yourself and share what you can about the diseases that could be debilitating. I'm going to say Parkinson's. All right, Parkinson's disease. If you have a loved one go through that and you know how vibrant lively they were, and they go through that for a protracted period of time. And you see how they pass away. Sometimes seeing them die is a relief, but in other senses, like they didn't deserve that. And they never should have gone through that, right? So Parkinson's is one, cancer, and there are so many different types of cancers. I'll just keep it generic. Leukemia. And then there are others, if you don't do the right things, can lead to death, like diabetes. There's lupus. Does anyone want to add something? That right now I got Parkinson's, cancer, leukemia, diabetes, lupus. I can put in sickle cell, but that's predominantly for blacks.
How about heart disease?
Heart disease?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Alzheimer's. Okay? Alzheimer's can really make things difficult. All right? How about, let's see, anybody else have some that they would like to add? I think this is a good list so far.
How about mental disease, a mental disorder?
Okay, we can, Alzheimer's is kind of in that, but I'll say mental disorder. So that would cover like schizophrenia, and any disease that will impact the way a person thinks or acts. Tumors, right? Because tumors in certain spots of the body can really make things difficult. And these don't really cover all of the diseases that could take a person out, but these are certainly a few that we would be aware of. Now, in the event that, let's say, a person in the family, ends up with a particular one of these or an illness that requires, some people to make some sacrifices. Okay, so that would mean that some people would have to be willing to give up a day of work or give up their Saturdays. Somebody would have to be committed to preparing meals and bringing those by. Someone would have to be prepared to do grocery shopping. Someone else would have to be prepared to, do yard work or wash cars, go and help their loved one, do banking chores and just basic, go to doctor's visits. It's an involved kind of thing. And if it's done right, no one person has all the weight land on them. Because if it lands on them, you just might find that they will rewrite the will. They would have that person, write all y'all other ones out of the will because y'all didn't do nothing. That happens all the time, where the caretaker says, since I'm doing all the work, I should get all the money. And it doesn't matter how many siblings they have. They believe that since they're not helping me at the end of, my loved one's life, my mother's life, father's life, I have a right to everything. Now, they're not looking at it from a fair and equitable legal standpoint, because according to law, if there are 4 siblings, the 4 siblings each get a fourth of the total pot. That's just by law, unless it's written up by the parent that, is divided up differently. And this is why people end up going to court to challenge what has been done, because they feel like, if there's 4 children or 3 children or 6 children, that total has to be divided by the number of children, and no one child has the right to take it all. And some families will say, I'm just not gonna fight for it. If she wanted or he wants it that bad, he can have it. And they don't fight about it at all. But then they start thinking about, look, they have cars, they have a house, they're, and we still renting, and it's not fair. And instead of getting a lawyer and saying, well, I should get something out of the deal, they just sulk. Because they say, I'm not gonna go and fight my family member in court. Now, there are other families that say, I'm gonna fight you in court, and they will do it. But those that feel like they don't want to pit themselves against their family member and have a judge decide, they would rather just say, if you don't want me to have anything, I'll just be without. But then when they see you driving in your brand new car and bragging on where you live, it affects them. And it affects them in a mighty way, to the degree that depression can set in. You can come home from work and you think that everything's normal, and you see them sitting on the edge of the bed crying, and you're like, well, what happened? Everything was going normal and fine, and all of a sudden, you're sitting over here crying, crocodile tears. And then they become distant, and it could have everything to do with the fact that they were written out of the will, or they were written out of the trust, and it wasn't fair how that was done. Now, we do know you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. You stuck with them. So safeguards need to be in place so that no one kid can rob the others from what they would normally receive, even if it is said that the others didn't do as much as they could have. If it's written well enough so that everyone gets a portion, even if it's not an equal portion, they get a portion, that works. But I know people that got zero, zilch, nada, not even a red penny. And then around the holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, when they see these family members, there's avarice in their spirit because of how they were done. And you do know that family members will kill each other for a pair of, earrings that Big Mama says they can have, and then the other sister stole them. All right? People have been shot at and or killed for less than that. So depression is real. It will either cause you to spin out of control, and when you're depressed, you try to escape. And one way to escape is to start drinking. Selah. And when I say drinking, I'm not talking about orange juice, although there are some drinks, I believe, that you can pour into orange juice. But they would, but usually a depressed person is not going to mix it up. They're going to go with something hard. So they'll probably do whiskey straight, okay? Or what are the other ones? I'm at a loss, but they won't try to make something like a martini where you mix it up and stir it up or shake it up. They will take it straight, okay? So you got rum, they take that straight. I've already said whiskey, and I'm just lost on what the other types of alcohol is. But then there's another one. Yes,
Vodka, gin.
Okay, you got vodka, right? So you can just drink vodka straight, gin straight, Mad Dog 2020. You can drink that straight. Because they won't really be doing beer unless, that's their drink of choice. Usually, these people are going after the harder stuff. I can't tell you how many times we've had a sweep of our parking lot after a funeral and found little brown bags. And in those brown bags were empty bottles of either gin or vodka or whiskey or any of the hard stuff. And I remember one time I was pulling up into the parking lot and a guy had a bottle. Now, I hope this is still tight. He had a bottle and it was turned all the way up, and it was bigger than this. And he was gonna finish it all. And he had no compunctions whatsoever about who was watching. He was on a church parking lot with a bottle turned all the way upside down. And there was another one who came into our fellowship hall. He had it's still in the bag. He turned his up. We called him and told him no drinking in church. And he excused himself, said he was sorry, put it in his pocket. I'm sure he went to the restroom somewhere and took some more swigs of it, but I've seen where they would smoke marijuana. In one funeral, I know, I saw the people in a car, and since I knew them, I walked over to it. When they rolled the window down, I mean, it hit me like I almost fell backwards. It was so heavy, the smell of marijuana. And what bothered me is that there were two little small children in the car. And they were smoking enough marijuana to make me dizzy. And I'm on the outside of the car. Now think about the two small children that were inside of the car. One was in a child seat. That's how you know how small they were. They were not in a regular seat with a seatbelt on. They were in a baby seat strapped in. And the adults should have known better than to do that with the children in the car. But some people, they're so busy trying to escape that they put their children in harm's way. So it's tough when we see things like this, but we know it does happen, right? Okay, Lily says PTSD, right, from military. Post-traumatic stress disorder, and Valerie Jones says bipolar. So PTSD, bipolar, thank you. I don't know if anyone, all right, so the lectures, Sister Jones, on depression, you would have received those already. The one we're going to do after this one would be acceptance, which would be the new worksheet. We haven't changed the worksheet since we started depression. And I know I emailed those to you all already. So check your paperwork to see if you still have depression. Okay, so let's look a little bit at the military now that I have the PTSD. This weekend we're going to deal with Memorial Day, and in Memorial Sunday we always look at the deceased members of the church, and then we look at the military component of Memorial Day and thanking our veterans who have served for us. Now imagine if you were a person that was very vibrant when you went into the service and then you came back injured. You might have lost a portion of a limb or a complete limb. You might have lost, you might have shrapnel in your body that can't be removed because it's too dangerous. So you just have to deal with those aches and pains. You might have seen things that you can't process. And because you can't process it, there's no place to go. You can't really talk to your pastor about it unless you know your pastor's been in the service and served where there was battles and death. Because I've never had a person shot and killed next to me. But being a pastor, I've seen someone expire before. Most likely they turned off the ventilator and the person their heart eventually stopped beating. That's not the same as someone talking to you 1 minute and getting hit with a bullet and you see that they're no longer talking and you can't revive them because you know they're dead. So, people who go through those kind of things are known to commit suicide. That's why the military has the VA hospital that has a psychiatric wing to it, because they know that if they don't capture this person's attention, they don't have to worry about it. He won't be back, or she won't be back, because they will take their own life. Okay, so the other side of this conversation, and I would need you all to help me with this, is how do family members deal with a person who's come back from a war or tour, and they're visibly different. So different that you look at them and say, this ain't the same brother I had, or this ain't the same sister I had. And they can't really go into what they saw because you won't understand it. But there could be your husband or your wife coming back with these issues. And when you can't help them, it might make you depressed. So I would suggest that if your loved one is going through anything like this, you definitely want to see if you can get them to a counselor that deals with PTSD. Because that's real. That's something that will affect that'll affect the children of the person with PTSD, it'll affect the spouse, certainly the person that has it. Okay? All right, so so this depression thing, I didn't want to jump to acceptance until we were completely done with that. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to shift to, on our worksheets, we had a thing which was the obituary worksheet. And we talked about the auxiliary membership and church participation of the deceased. I believe I emailed you the sheet that gave the membership of and participation of those things outside of the church. I believe that you have that. If you don't, you can just write it on your sheet somewhere, maybe where it says additional notes. And in that one, you want to add things like that are non-church related. So it could be a fraternity, it could be a sorority. I know that there are some people that are part of the Eastern Star, and the Masons, and, you know, any number of, you know, they might be in a golf club or a bowling club or a book reading club. And so you could, you would want to add those things in the obituary as well, wherever they serve. And I know for us, in our fraternity, they usually, and I know for sororities the same thing, and I know I've seen it done with the Masons, at least. And I think I remember an Eastern Star representation that happens. Okay, the best way I can explain that is that when one of our officers passes away, whether it's a deacon, an active deacon, or a deaconess, or a trustee, or you know, or a musician, because we're going to drape our Steinway piano for Rose McGee Freeman for 4 weeks. And this will be the first. We didn't do it for Blanche. We didn't think about it. We put a choir robe, and we might do a robe for Rose and set it where the Steinway is. But what we normally do is, because someone asked me, are we going to do a robe as well? And I said, I don't think so. But it would be appropriate if we did a robe for Blanche, we should do a robe for Rose. But we're going to drape our Steinway in black for sure. And the reason that we, you know, so what we normally do is on the service, we will have a litany read. And the litany, you know, includes the entire auxiliary. I didn't mention the mother's board, but they would qualify as well. And in the litany, you're remembering that individual for their work. So you talk about what the auxiliary is. So for instance, if it's a deacon, you explain what the office of deacon is, and then you talk about what are the emblems that represent a deacon. So you've got a Bible, you've got a hymn book, you have a pair of gloves, because when they serve as pallbearers, you know, they would be expected to wear gloves. They, you know, might have a lapel pin that says deacon. They might, you know, there would be obviously a necktie. So we would do a litany, and each person would talk about that one emblem. So they'll say, you know, this is a necktie that denotes, you know, that when one comes to worship, that they should, you know, dress in the most appropriate way possible. You know, here's the badge of a deacon, which identifies the individual so that anyone that walks up to them will know that they can get help based on the badge that is displayed. So all the deacons, for instance, will stand together, or the ushers, or the mother's board members, And one person would be the lead and say, you know, do you have anything that represents what this person did? And then the next person would say, yes, I have, you know, in my hand this badge or this necktie or this thing or that thing. Now, that's what we do in the church, okay? We haven't done it for musicians. We just, I can't remember, I have to look it up. All right, you got N-A-U-W. I don't know what that is, Lily, you might have to spell that out. Okay, so the Masons would have, you know, a group of Masons, or, you know, since I'm in Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, I know that for active members, they would, the Kappas would come in their red and white, and they would do some sort of a ceremony for the deceased. Right, so on your paper, you want to list all of the non-church areas that a person was a part of. Okay, so maybe they were in the chess club or a book club or whatever. That's where you would list all those things, and then be prepared to receive a resolution or some sort of a celebration event that they will come and do during the service for that deceased individual. And if they were a really highly ranked participant of that non-church group, then it's going to be even that much more pronounced. Yeah, okay, National Association of University Women, right, NAUW, got it, thank you. All right, so yeah, so they all do those different things, and that is all well and good. The challenge we have is that in a COVID reality, you know, your service cannot go 5 and 6 hours long, and you might have to move some of those things to the wake, you know, so that you can offset what the funeral service is going to be like. Okay? So I didn't want to miss that. I wanted to add that because I know we never talked about non-church participation, but there are people in all sorts of clubs and organizations that would more than likely want to come and either read a resolution or do some sort of a litany. And I wanted to make sure we got that part in the discussion. All right? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do, rather than me jumping into acceptance, we're going to just stop here and pick up acceptance on next week. So I will email you the acceptance worksheet, and you will have it. All right, so do we have any questions, statements, or comments before we shut down? We're going to shut down early tonight. Going once, going twice. All right, we will see you all later. All right, Deacon Jones, can you pray us out?
Shall we bow our heads? Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we had together this evening, studying about how to deal with bereavement. And while we're at it, Father, we are praying for all of those who are bereaving at this time, and as well as those who are sick and shut in. We ask that you just look in on us, Father. Bless us and keep us until we meet again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, we'll see you all next time.